and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, I let him live, and he wasted it. It's Elliot Diebold. Welcome back to the show, Elliot. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know, I'm sure you'll get over it eventually. That's the theme of this show that we're going to get into is you just give it time and people chill.
Yeah, you just take a little bit of time. You don't rush into anything. You don't act rashly, and everything works out.
Yep.
This week on the show, Matt is on vacation, and also he hasn't watched the show we're here to talk about, so I thought this was a perfect opportunity to get Elliot back on the show and catch up on HBO's The Last of Us. We recorded an episode, it had to have been 2 years ago, right, Elliot? I think that's when the last season came out.
That's about how it works these days, yeah.
Yeah. So we recorded an episode about the show and also about the game. And we're back now to talk about season 2 of The Last of Us. And I'm pretty excited having this conversation. There's been a lot of talk about this show on the internet. Not a lot of it has been great talk. So I hope we can contribute to well thought out arguments for and against the show instead of the nonsense that I'm seeing on the internet constantly.
This is one of those shows where like as I was watching it was just like, I'm really glad that these days I kind of live under a rock. Like I very much pulled back from a lot of social media and stuff, and now I'm just kind of not exposed to things outside my bubble, and in a lot of ways that's not healthy, but watching shows like this, I'm like, it's definitely a perk.
I'm so jealous of that. I wish I was that way, but the algorithm like feeds me this nonsense. It just like I'll just open like even Instagram. I'll just open Instagram and it's like some stupid person's account like that's got a picture of Bella Ramsey and is like, bleh. I'm like, Jesus, go away. Just go away.
I hate how well attuned they are now to they don't care what kind of engagement it is. It really just is engagement. So when I rage click stuff, it really cements it in. And yeah.
Yep. Before we get to The Last of Us, though, Elliot, I did just want to talk about you have a new show, and I don't think we've talked about it on the Doofcast yet. I think maybe we mentioned it one-off in an outro once, but you have a still pretty brand new show that you're doing now, right?
Yeah, Ruben and I are making our way through the Expanse novels, not the show, the novels. Got a real stick up my butt about that one. But yeah, so we're making our way through doing the sort of classic Doof formula that you and Matt established. On the book series. So we're halfway through the first book right now.
Excellent. Yeah. So you are, I think, breaking that into like 60, 70 page chunks and reading and discussing them on the show. And I'm, for like the first time in, I can't remember how long, actually successfully following along so far. Like I was following along with Pale, I think, for the first month. And then I got behind and just never caught up. But I think y'all are doing it every other week, which is like a huge bonus for me because I can actually keep up with it. And it's been great so far. I've really enjoyed it. I missed listening to y'all talk about books. I haven't been able to do it for a while. So this first book is the only one in the series I've read. So I am rereading it, but really enjoying the conversation so far.
Yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to, I think the next episode we record will be, like, Ruben did watch a little part of the show years and years ago, so he kind of half remembers things as they're happening a little bit. But the first season was only like the first half of the book, so we're about to reach the point where he'll be completely caught off guard, and I can't wait.
Oh yeah, and we are reaching kind of that end point of the season, and if I'm remembering correctly, a pretty big thing happens.
Yes, so I'm very much looking forward to it, and yeah, no, it was very funny actually. Because I wasn't sure how much to cover per episode, and so I kind of I guesstimated it, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if this feels right. And I was like, I'll just see what Scott and Matt did for like Kingslingers, and it was almost like exactly the same amount of coverage per episode, and I was like, okay, cool. Like,
it's really funny because it's not like we set out to like, I'm going to do this many pages. It just like ended up what felt natural, and it kept working. So I just kept doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of was like, what seems like a sane amount to cover, and then so you guys were doing almost exactly the same. I was like, okay, good.
I think there were a few weeks we pushed up to like 90 pages. just because of the weirdness of chapter breaks and like you didn't want to stop mid chapter or anything. But yeah, I think like that 70-ish, 60 to 70-ish page sweet spot is perfect for a week of reading, both in the time it takes to read it and also the amount that you want to talk about to get deep enough, but not ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it was very funny. Like when I originally read the series as it was coming out, it was like I used to sometimes think they were a little bit hamstrung. The Expanse novels are very strict on like how long chapters are. Like they're almost all 10 pages. There's a couple that are longer or shorter, but it's very consistent. Whereas now, as somebody who's kind of trying to map it out and plan it for a podcast, I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, no, that's consistent. So helpful. Yeah, Stephen King was kind of all over the place. He'd have a 2-page chapter and a 50-page chapter, and I think there were a couple like 100-page chapters in there where we literally had to break the chapter amongst multiple episodes.
Yeah, so that's that. I think that's like coming from like Pratchett novels and stuff as a kid. That's what I'm more used to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm enjoying the show. If anyone out there hasn't checked it out yet, we definitely strongly recommend it. I think you'll enjoy it. The Expanse novels are pretty great. At least the first one. That's the only one I can talk to. But I've been enjoying y'all's show, and people should check it out. It comes out, I believe, Monday mornings, right?
Yes.
Monday mornings every other week. Yep. And I think right now your plan is to just go through the first 3. Is that right?
That's all we've scheduled, and then we're going to sort of see if people are still with us, and if it's still going well, then we'll add more onto that. But so far we've only blocked out the first 3.
Awesome. Can't wait. I can't wait to be on the second novel. Finally, like honestly, Elliot, like you told me you were maybe going to do this like 5 years ago. And I said, okay, well then I'm not going to read any of the other books. And like, I've just been the kind of sitting, looking at my bookshelf going, when am I going to get to read these books? So I'm very excited that I finally going to have my excuse to read these books.
Yeah. Oh no, it's been about 5 years of every 6 months, me just sort of been like, Ruben, like we should start another podcast, right? And of course we had Power Reflections for a long time. So the answer was always understandably no. But about a year after that finished, I was able to wear him down.
That's what you have to do. You gotta find him. I mean, it's the same thing with Matt, where you gotta find him on a good day.
Yeah,
where he's not too busy with work. Just be like, we should do another multi-year podcast.
I don't think Ruben knows how long Belting at Windmills is going to take yet, and I'm just kind of leaving it that way.
Yeah, you just don't tell him.
No.
Yeah.
Another advantage of only blocking out the first 3 books at once.
That's very intelligent. No, well done. Well done. So yeah, check out Belting at Windmills. It's available wherever you can get podcasts, or you can just head to doofmedia.com and check it out there.
Yeah, and even if you don't listen to that, just read The Expanse. They're real good. I love them.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun science fiction. What is it? I have the book right here, and George R. R. Martin says it's interplanetary adventure the way it ought to be written.
So they love that quote. I think it's on all 9 of the books. They got that one for Leviathan Wakes, the first one. They just stuck with it.
Just milked the shit out of it. Yeah. Well, when George R. R. Martin says something nice about your book, you kind of have to pull out all the stops.
Yeah. I went into this a lot in our second episode, but both the authors have personal connections with George as well. So I kind of feel like getting a quote from him was a bit of a gimme. So I think it's even funnier that they're really kind of like their publishers are really milking it.
I do remember, like I didn't know any of the things about the authors because it's like the author name on the book is a pen name representing these 2 guys writing the book together. And I didn't know they had connections to Martin. And so, I definitely, like, when you said that, I looked at that pull quote and I was like, oh, that doesn't mean as much now.
No, it was very easy to get him to get eyes on it. I think he was actually, one of the beta testers when it was meant to be an RPG before it was a book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be like if I read, like, my wife's review of my podcast on there. It'd be like, look, she really likes it. All right. Let's get into season 2 of The Last of Us. This was a 7-episode season. that was released. I think it wrapped up just a couple weeks ago. Of course, the show was created by Craig Mazin with support from Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the Last of Us video game series. And I think he also wrote and maybe even directed a couple episodes of this season this time.
Okay.
Should have looked that up before I started the episode, but I think that's true.
I'm scanning the Wikipedia page now. Yeah, it looks like he did. Yeah.
Excellent. It stars Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal, Isabella Merced, and Caitlin Dever as Abby. Elliot, I know you have not completed the second game in The Last of Us, and so we will not be doing any kind of spoilers on this show for anything beyond the point in the game that this season leaves off on. But I'm curious, what were your kind of overall high level feelings on this season of the show?
Yeah, I'm actually, because I'm really annoyed with myself that I still haven't gone back and finished it. I was really liking it. I just it was one of those things where you get busy and then suddenly it's 4 years later. But hilariously, I got up to like literally the last thing I did in the game was the final scene of season 2 of the show. So like I'm at a perfect point to try and launch back into it now. I like, from a high level, like as an adaptation, I find this show fascinating, just especially because Naughty Dog games are borderline interactive cinema to begin with.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like I don't know, I thought there was some interesting choices in the structure of this that I want to get into, but overall, I was having a blast. I don't know if it's just like getting to vicariously relive this with like my family who don't play video games, so kind of watching my parents lose their mind, like not believe what happens in episode 2.
Yeah.
Was it's just for any like nitpicks and criticisms I'll probably bring up today. Like I think overall this show is very fun, and I just get a lot out of watching it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think I have some structural problems with the show, but before we kind of break those down and get into those, I think this is a fantastically well-made television show, like kind of across the board. Like the performances are great. I think the writing is solid. The direction is very good. The special effects are great. It's a great like core story. Also like that, like the video game is like one of my favorite video game stories ever. I think it's some of the best writing I've seen in a video game. I probably wouldn't call it like my favorite game, but I just think like the writing of the story of The Last of Us Part 2 is just some of like the best writing I've seen in video games, which, video game writing is kind of a mixed bag a lot of times. So that's a relatively low bar, but still. And I enjoy the show and the way it's adapting the source material. I think there are some challenges with The Last of Us Part 2 that I think a lot of my complaints with the show like stem from like what the story of the game is. And like perhaps like I guess my bold statement here is possibly like this is a story structure that perhaps only works in a video game, and they're trying to adapt it to a television show, and maybe it's not working in the same way.
I had the same thought because I even though I didn't finish the game, I kind of understood the loose structure of what awaited me in the sort of second half, and so I was actually surprised to learn that the show was following suit for this season, especially with the 2-year gap in the middle. But yeah, like because as somebody who accidentally took a 4-year gap at this exact spot, let me tell you. It doesn't feel like I'm ready to jump back. Like I'm really glad I got to rewatch the show because I did not remember a lot. Like all of Abby's team's names completely were gone from my head.
Sure, yeah. I definitely like I the names I recognized, and I was like remembering their own stories as we were reintroduced to them. And like a lot of the Seattle stuff was, despite the fact that I've just spoke glowingly about this game, really like it. Like a lot of the Seattle stuff was like right as it was happening, I was remembering it and being like, oh yeah, that's this part. Oh yeah, that's this part. I think like so yeah, I think we can just say like the structure of the game is, of course, Joel is killed. Spoilers. If anyone's listening to this still that hasn't watched the show, sorry. Joel is killed very early in the game, and then the structure of the game is uh, Ellie heads to Seattle and spends 3 days in Seattle, basically just rampaging shit all over everything and killing all of Abby's friends. And then the midway through the game, it ends just where the season of the show has ended, where there's a confrontation between Abby and Ellie in the movie theater she's been staying in, and we cut to black almost identically, like is done in the show. And then we wake up with Abby in day one, and the implication here that the show leaves us with is that we're now going to relive those 3 days, but from Abby's point of view. And
that was exactly where I assumed the game was going, and then a finale where we sort of intertwine, because the start, I think you were jumping between Ellie and Abby, and I just assumed the ending would kind of mirror that or something. But it really, the second half of the game and now the third season of the show really seemed to set itself up to just be Abby's point of view, which will be fascinating.
And this is such a weird thing. So like, I love this in the game. I think it's great for many reasons. The main of the most of which is that you, the person, are playing these characters, and so you're being Ellie, slaughtering people left and right. And like, even as it's going, like even as you kind of see maybe she's stepping too far, she kills a pregnant woman. You're just like, and then you're kind of forced to then suddenly be Abby, and play through as Abby. And like in a video game perspective, where that switch happens instantaneous, you're playing along in the game, then you suddenly switch. Or if you're like Elliot, you take a 4-year break for some reason. But assuming you don't do that, you're instantaneously playing as Abby and playing through the game again. And like, I think that perspective switch is off-putting, and you're like, wait, where's Ellie? I want to be back with Ellie. But then you very quickly get kind of absorbed in the Abby story of it all.
Well, and especially like again, it was a weird thing because I was so keen, because when the game switched me to Abby and said day one, I was like, oh shit, are we going to do like the whole 3 days from Abby's perspective? I was like, but she's up until that point, I've been entirely experiencing everything through like Ellie's point of view, who very much, she's going on a rampage specifically to get Abby. So even if I thought Ellie was kind of going a little bit crazy at times, like Abby in my head was still, I think like I was telling myself she was the bad guy in order to make myself more okay with everything I was doing as Ellie.
And
so to get thrown into her POV and kind of get hinted at that I'm going to be there for a while is a bit like I love that from a game perspective, because it forces you to examine your own point of view.
Right. Yeah, it's a great thing. I love it so much. I'm really worried it doesn't work in TV. I'm really scared of what's going to happen. Like I think season 3 has the potential to be a really, really great season of the show, but also you're going to make people wait 2 years, and then they're not going to see Ellie, but maybe a little bit here and there throughout the season. Like if we're staying true to what the game did, then essentially like the Abby doesn't run into Ellie until the end of day 3.
Yeah.
And so if all of season 3 is those 3 days, Abby's going to be off doing her own stuff, having her own story, and we're just not going to see Ellie, who is a core member of the show. And so people are going to wait 2 years only to not see the character they like for another season. And then like, I don't know if that works in a TV show. I just don't know. And also the idea that you're playing as the characters is so key to everything they're trying to do with like forcing you into the perspective of people. Like, I mean, one unique thing about the game that the show changed, and I want to talk about this change with you for sure, is that in the game, you don't know that Ellie knows what Joel did until like pretty late in the game. Like certainly not the part that you've played, I don't think.
No. I was suspicious, but I don't think it had been confirmed.
Yeah. So the fact that Ellie, that you, the player, are watching Ellie go on this rampage, and you don't know for sure if she knows
Yeah.
what Joel did, and you definitely don't know that like she knows why Abby killed him. Like in Ellie's mind, in your presumption of
Yes.
Ellie's
Oh,
mind in the first half of the game, it's just like this random person came in and killed my father, and now I have to go kill him,
yeah.
and I'm spurred on by righteous justice and revenge.
Yeah, she killed
And
and tortured him for next to no reason is
yeah,
sort
yeah,
of the image of Ellie I had as I was playing, because it's the only one you
right,
can kind of square with
yeah, yeah.
what's happening. Yeah.
And so like that allows you to get into this space where you're like, hell yeah, fuck yeah, kill these guys. Like these guys suck. And then the game does that switch. You figure out who Abby is, why she hated Joel, and and then you see everything from her point of view, and it's like, oh man. And then you're forced to play from her point of view. So it's like
Yeah.
it's forcing you into this mindset of like, yeah, huh. Yeah, good points. And then the whole game is essentially about this idea of um when your side does something terrible, it's justified and righteous.
Yeah.
But when the side you're against does something terrible, it's monstrous and evil. That's like
Mhm.
the idea that the game is trying to explore. And I think that the season of the show is definitely laying the groundwork for that too.
Yeah, oh, you could see it even more. Like, I think the show went a bit deeper into the wolf and Seraphite conflict than I'd really picked
Yes.
up from where I was up to in the game. But yeah, that was coming through loud and clear, especially in
Hmm.
the show. That you sort of had these two, especially like the show really made a habit of talking about how much they were killing each other's kids. I think to really make sure you picked up on that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and like very pointedly, like we see fathers like killed, and like we're playing a lot with the idea of that Ellie lost Joel, and then we're constantly seeing parental figures killed. We're also seeing
Mm.
their children killed, yes, but we're leaning into this very hard, and like I think this all functions and works, like, but I do just worry that maybe this is the type of thing that just would have been better. It just works better in a video game. And like the changes that they made, I think, have been changes that acknowledge that. Like I think the choice to uh, tell us who Abby is very early in the
Yes.
show, tell us who she is and why she's doing this, is a big change. But I think it is a change born from this idea of, if we don't understand this at all, we're just not going to buy into any of this stuff when you're just sitting on a couch watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Um,
completely. I was shocked to learn that like Caitlin basically wasn't in the show after episode 2. I really
yeah,
thought they were just going to do them kind of in sync. Um,
yeah. Like I remember hearing, like I think there was a news thing that said like Caitlin Deaver would be eligible for guest star, and like apparently to be like the guest star Emmy, and to be eligible for the guest star category at the Emmys, you have to appear in less than half of the total episode count. And I knew there
mm,
were only 7 episodes, and she's in the first 2. So I'm like, quick mental math. That
yeah,
means she's only going to be in one more episode this entire season. And that was
yeah, I
surprising for sure.
yeah, and I guess like because like talking about that as well. I guess there's this general sense I have watching the show where it kind of feels like it likes to clump things in a way that I personally think it would have been better not to. So, but what I'm really thinking is episode 6 is obviously the one we cut back to, and we see all of Ellie's birthdays, and
Yeah.
we see like her history with Joel that we kind of had been missing until that point. And the game had spread that out a little bit more. Like there was the museum scene with the astronaut stuff and all that, but it's kind of just taking place between days in Seattle. And I just I don't know. I got the sense as I was watching it, I was like, I think this would have worked even better if we'd kind of had one of Ellie's birthdays kind of each episode and had been a bit of a through line in the season.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because yeah, it definitely was a choice to like do one entire episode of that. And I went back and forth on this because I do think like so one of the reasons why I think they did it this way is this idea that the show, the core of the show was this Joel, and the game as well, was this Joel and Ellie relationship, and
Yeah.
this like two-piece relationship. And I think the reason why they saved all the flashbacks for the penultimate episode of the season was they wanted, if you have Joel dies, but then he appears in flashback in every single episode after that, it
You're not gonna
doesn't
feel it.
necessarily drive home this idea that he's gone, like from the viewer's perspective. Like he's
Yeah,
still
that's
very
fair.
much a part of the show. And so I think the choice there was, we want to have, what is it, 3 episodes where Joel is just gone, and we all have to live with the fact that Joel is just gone. And then we're gonna give everyone a little reprieve in the penultimate episode and get to see him again and kind of say goodbye to the character, and have the porch scene, which I know you haven't gotten there in the game. I guess it's weird because this is technically a game spoiler, I guess, but
Yeah, no,
technically
if it's
not
covered in the
because you've
show,
watched it. Yeah.
yeah.
That porch scene occurs in the game as well, and it's one of my favorite scenes in the game, and I thought this show just handled that moment absolutely beautifully. They added stuff to it in a
I
great
did
way
really
too.
like the placement of it here, like cutting from Ellie torturing Nora in the hospital to then like you said, like I think it was perfect to sort of like, as Ellie's doing the worst thing she's done so far,
Yeah.
to then cut back and kind of remind us how good things were with Joel, and like have to bring it right back to the end. It's like things get bad between them, but then right at the end they sort of make up, and then we know that it was like the next day.
It literally the next day
he got killed.
Yeah, that's the true tragedy of it, is because like you learned that she knew about it, she knew what Joel did, and you're like, oh man. But then the biggest tragedy of it is like she had started to get to a place where maybe she could learn to be okay with it, and their relationship was going to begin to mend, and then he's taken from her. And that's why that's part of the reason she's so furious about it all, is because so I guess slight spoiler, but in the game she finds out what happened in Salt Lake City like a decent amount of time before the porch scene happens. Like in the way they laid it out in the show, it all happens kind of simultaneously.
Yeah, well, because she'd been stewing, like, the show had her just kind of like highly suspicious, but it hadn't actually been confirmed.
Yeah.
And I guess that I just assumed that the game had followed the same thing, because that was sort of all that aligned with what I'd played so far. But so she actually like learned a fair bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, the way the game, I won't spoil the details of it, but the way the game handles her figuring out the truth is a little bit clunky and very like video gamey, to a point where like I was thinking as I started the season, like I hope they change that, because I don't think it would work in the show to do what they do in the game to. And I think the way she finds out in the show is actually super elegant, like using the one character whose name I'm blanking on right now, Eugene, I think Eugene, yeah.
Yes.
Using Eugene and how Joel deals with Eugene as the catalyst for Ellie to finally kind of clue in, and figure out that he's been lying, I think was perfect. And
I really like that. I'm actually, like I'm now simultaneously more interested to see how the game handles it, but also kind of thinking, that sounds like a change. I can, without even knowing what the alternative is, I might know they nailed it.
Yeah, and it's not that I dislike how they did it in the game. I mean, I kind of do, but I just also think it would just been the wrong move for a TV show. It's like it's a level, it's a flashback level in the game, and like that's just not gonna work. It's not gonna work in a TV show. So I think the change was good, and I love like one big thing they added in that scene was the kind of the setup with Joel and his father, and that idea of like, maybe you'll be a little bit better than me. I thought that was beautifully done and very touching. And that's like, in my opinion, when the show is at its absolute best, it's when they get to take this world and these stories and these characters and flesh them out in ways that a video game kind of can't. Like, my favorite parts of season 1 were, of course, episode 3 that everyone talks about, the kind of the extended story with the couple that fall in love and both of them ultimately die. And then I think the Melanie Linsky like stuff, where we really got to dive into her and how she kind of became the leader of this place, and how she kind of traded her soul in over time. And like these are kind of things that, like, because the video game is by necessity locked in the perspective of our point of view character, which is Ellie for the most of it.
Yeah.
Like we really don't get the opportunity in the game to really dive into these exterior characters and flesh out their story. And I love when the television show does that. Like I really like that in the first season. And there are moments in the second season where they get to do it. There's less of them, and maybe that's why I have some problems with the season is I wish we got to do more of that. But the majority of the season is staying very closely aligned with just the story of the game. But I did like the Joel add-on stuff with his father. I thought that was really, really good.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, because the way the game anchors you in a perspective, like I remember playing the game, sort of being ready to go. Like when, like I guess in the game, I swear, am I misremembering? I swear, Dina and Ellie are chasing Tommy.
Yes. So that is the way. Basically, the way it happens in the game is Tommy and Ellie agree to go together. And then to save Ellie, Tommy like takes off in the middle of the night. So instead of Ellie disappearing in the middle of the night, it's Tommy disappearing in the middle of the night. And then Ellie wakes up the next morning, finds him gone, and then goes after him. And other changes in the game, it's like basically right after Joel dies. Like I think in the show they had like 3 months go by or something while Ellie is recuperating. But like in the game, it's literally like the day after Joel dies. They are like, fuck this, we're going to Seattle.
Yeah. But like I do remember in the game, I was just like, yep, let's get out of here. Like Jackson was interesting, but I was so into Ellie's perspective, I just wanted to follow that. Whereas I remember like watching the show, I was kind of like, oh, like I wanted to see more of everybody else in Jackson, like Tommy, Maria. Like there is something just about the television medium as opposed to the game that makes me want to see more from everyone else, and it's both a blessing and a curse, because I think this is the same problem that's kind of caused the structure issue we're talking about with like the Ellie Abby perspective shift, because the way the game anchors you in one perspective is both a blessing and a curse depending on what you're talking about. And so it's like it's I kind of wanted to see more of Jackson here, whereas I remember distinctly not thinking that in the game. I thought Jackson was cool, but I was like, no, I got to find out what's happening in Seattle.
Yeah, totally. And then like the flip side of this is like in the Seattle parts, like in the show, I really want to see more of the wolves and the Seraphites.
Yes. And we did see more than the game already kind of established.
Sure.
Unless you're meant to get more from like reading collectibles that you pick up, which I don't tend to do very much.
No, I mean, but, I think you get to learn more about the wolves via the Abby point of view stuff that hasn't quite happened.
Yeah, because I think I'd heard the name Isaac, but he wasn't like a character in the part of the game that I'd played, whereas it makes sense from what I've seen in the show now. That's like, oh, okay, he will be a character in the Abby part.
I guess the interesting part for me is that like I think definitely like, first of all, any show that has Jeffrey Wright in it like is great, and the Jeffrey Wright scenes like are awesome, and I really, really like them. But it's like I almost wanted more of that. So I guess my overarching complaint about the season is actually like I can't believe it's only 7 episodes long, and I wish it was like 2 more episodes maybe. That just like, because I guess it feels like they get to Seattle, I think at the end of episode 3. And then it like felt like we tore through the Seattle stuff very, very quickly. And I was like, oh wait, it's all the finale already. And like again, this is like in the game, I didn't mind that because my focus was locked in on Ellie. I'm locked in on Ellie. Ellie, get there, kill those people, do it, go, go, go. In the show, like we get these tantalizing bits about Jeffrey Wright's Isaac or about the Seraphites or what's going on here and there. And like there was part of me that was like, I want more of it. Like, give me more actually. And it just didn't feel like we had time to really dive into any of it. We just gave you like a little amuse bouche of it. And then we moved on to back to Ellie's story.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I actually remember specifically getting to the aquarium in The Last of Us 2 took like a fair while. It was one of those video gamey things where a bunch of problems come up. So it's kind of like painstakingly Dina is like guiding you through like one building at a time, and I just remember like thinking, "Fuck, I just want to get to the like aquarium." Like this is taking so long; it's so bloated. And then kind of in the TV show, I was like, "No, where's the bloat?" Like and I didn't want bloat of Ellie walking through more buildings. I wanted like like we were already getting more. Like, yeah, I know more about the Seraphites and Wolf from the show than I think I do from the game at this point, and it still
Mhm.
doesn't feel like enough. Whereas I was enjoying the way the mystery was unfolding in the game, because especially as you're in Ellie's POV, you're just like, what the fuck like it's a cool mystery. Whereas in the show, yeah, they start to tease you with like Isaac defecting from Fedra, and I'm like, okay, I need to know more about that, and why do I
Yeah.
have to wait 2 years?
Yeah, well, and in the show, or in the game rather, like the fact that you don't know anything about the wolves and you don't know anything about the Seraphites, and you're just like picking up maybe bits and pieces of who
Yeah,
they are from environmental stuff, like that's part of the point of what the game is doing, right? It's
yes,
locking you in on their perspective, and it's not giving you a lot of extraneous information to where you could understand these people as people. Like that's the point of it, actually, is
yeah,
so when that switch happens midway through, then we get to see them as people for the first time and go, wait a minute, wait, hold on a second. Um, but like, I think smartly they understand in a TV show they really can't get away with that, and so they're having to pepper in a little bit more information. But the result is, yeah, you're like, we want more of that actually, but then they're like, well, we can't give you more of it because then the switch to Abby loses some of its effectiveness if we give you so much of this up front.
mm,
And this is like the problem, the back and forth problem I go with this whole this whole structure of this game that they're trying to fit into multiple seasons of a TV show. And I'm just like, I keep going back to like, does this work ultimately? Like, I mean, like I think the short answer to that question is yes, it does, because I enjoyed this season.
yeah.
But like, so much of my issues with the overall structure stem from this kind of core problem of just what the story is.
Yeah, I mean, like ironically, it's because I think The Last of Us 2, better than any other Naughty Dog game, really used the medium of a video game better than it had. Like not that the other ones were bad or
Yes.
whatever, but this one really took like the unique strengths of video games as a medium, and like boosted them and used them really well. And now it's causing them issues. And I know, to a degree, I feel like maybe the TV show ran into some problems because it was trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
They've kept this sort of Abby shift thing, but then also out of necessity had to give us a little bit more of the Seraphite. And I just can't help but wonder if just kind of cutting constantly back and forth between Ellie and Abby may have just worked better for a TV show, and whether trying to keep that switch, even though it's such a pivotal moment for the way the game works, like whether it's
Yeah.
gotten in the way for the show.
Yeah, maybe ultimately it's just you have to say that the structural conceit we wanted to go with just doesn't work in this medium. And if we want to
Yeah,
find a way to hit the same thematic ideas, we're gonna have to find another way to it. I don't know. We'll see. Again, I think season 3 has like the potential of being like a really excellent season of TV. So
oh yeah.
maybe in 3 years we'll be looking back and be like, no, actually that was the perfect way to do it. And we just kind of had to suffer through a second season that on its own doesn't work as well, but as a piece of the larger picture, ultimately will work very, very well.
Yeah, which I guess just means that really my complaints with how the show is structured are boiling down to my general complaints about modern TV production schedules.
Yeah, I mean, like this is not a problem isolated to The Last of Us for sure,
No.
but the idea that we get 7 episodes and then we have to wait 2 years to get maybe 10 more, and then actually they're talking about how the show can't be completed in 3 seasons, they're going to need 4 seasons. So we're talking about the end of this game is going to come at the end of a season 4 that could possibly not be out until 2029. Like that's insane, actually.
The third
That's
game will be
insane.
out by then.
Are they doing a third game?
I, I heard that they were pivoting because Naughty Dog was working on like a multiplayer Last of Us game, and then I think that
Yeah.
got cancelled when Sony realized that those weren't going to make them any money. So I think they're
Yeah.
back. I think Naughty Dog's back on single. I just kind of assume they're getting pressured to do some more single player Last of Us content. It'd be bonkers for the Sony executives not to be
Yeah.
like prodding Neil Druckmann every day and being like, more.
Yeah, I know Sony gives Naughty Dog a pretty lengthy leash because they've given them a
Yes.
lot of money. But yeah, I agree. You have to assume that they'd be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm like," because they're making. I think their next game is like a sci-fi game, Um,
Mm.
that, of course, the lead of it is a woman, so the internet decided to talk
Oh,
about how the woke games development was destroying the world or something. I don't know, some stupid bullshit. But
some people just really
um,
haven't recovered from March 2020 and then The Last of Us 2 coming out like 3 months later, and it shows. It's
I
just,
think you're right. I think you're right. But so I know that like it's an original story type thing that I'm anxious to play because I'm sure it's going to be great. But yeah, I agree with you. I bet the big wigs at Sony are like, come on, man. There's got to be some more stories in this world, right? We're making a TV show now. You know how much it would help the TV show and reciprocally help the game that the TV show's on. So yeah, I would be
yeah, like,
surprised if they don't ultimately make another game.
yeah, like I can imagine the Sony execs be like, here is unlimited money, spend it however you want. This sci-fi game looks great. We're so excited for it, but also have your B team or whatever. Like we do need some more. It's like, yeah, the unlimited money for whatever you want, caveat, there should be some Last of Us in that pile.
hmm hmm Totally.
Like it is. I feel so weird that I've almost turned around now to like half the time being like, oh, I wish the executives would meddle a bit more with the creatives. But like, it feels like a change over the last 10 years where I've started to be like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I see the advantages of some of the executive meddling. Obviously, they've ruined a lot of things as well, but I don't
Yeah,
know. Sometimes it's been like, no, okay, this does streamline things.
I think having a healthy tension there between the creatives
Yes.
and the executives is ultimately best. You don't want obviously you don't want the executives to get to make all the decisions,
No.
um, but sometimes having completely free reign makes absurd, ridiculous, bloated
Yes. Yeah.
things.
Exactly. It's it's the same at my work where it's like, if you let the programmers make the decisions versus the artists on a game, it's a nightmare. You really got to have like a blend of the two, otherwise you
Yeah.
just end up skewing way too far the other way. And I think we're kind of seeing now the role executive restraint did play in some of the TV landscape.
Yeah.
That said, I think HBO has consistently maintained the best balance in that regard. Certain
Yeah.
flagship shows, final seasons notwithstanding.
Well, that's an anomaly. Let's not pay attention to that one. No, I completely agree with you, and I think like that's ultimately like we've listed some complaints we have with the season so far, but like overall, I think it's as you said, it was very entertaining the entire time. I was
Mm,
despite the fact that I kind of knew the overarching like move of the plot, I was pretty riveted to my TV. I think what one challenge they had was we're gonna take Joel off the board. We're gonna take Pedro Pascal out of the show, and he is kind of a force to be reckoned with. And the relationship and the chemistry between Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal was something that really pushed the
yeah.
first season through to the completion. They were so great together, and so like the outstanding question was like, well, how does this show work without Pedro Pascal in it? And they found this actress Isabella Merced to play Dina, who like Dina is a character from the story in the game, but she's a very different character in the game,
Mm.
and I'm not going to say minimized because she plays a very important role in the story of the game, but I just feel like Isabella Merced's version of the character is different in like great ways, in that like she can command a scene, and I thought her chemistry with Bella was great, actually.
Yeah, like anecdotally, I can point to my dad commenting on this as well because he know like yeah when Pedro left and or Joel left, my dad was sort of like, oh, so now like the two protagonists are both like young women. That's going to be like a huge vibe shift. Like
hmm
the first season and the first game are really defined by that uh, pseudo father daughter relationship. So to switch from that to a kind of romantic, like young love relationship is a huge tonal shift.
Yeah.
And it it took I think about maybe 1 or 2 episodes before my dad was sort of completely on board with just
hmm
like no, this is fine, like this is different, but it's working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you probably were immune to the internet's absolute losing their mind over the Ellie quote of "I'm gonna be a dad" when she finds out Dina's pregnant. Like,
But that was
dude,
funny, like
It was a
Yeah.
joke. Like, she's being funny. Like, that she's being funny. And like, the internet lost its fucking mind, dude. It's like, I can't tell you how many like videos I saw of like a comparison of the scenes when Dina first tells Ellie in the game, and Ellie's like pissed off at her because like
Yeah.
she's like, you put yourself at risk, like, and like, look, I think the show is doing something different with this relationship, and I think part of what it's doing is it's really in the early parts of the Seattle stuff, it's leaning very, very heavily into these are two young people in love. And
Yes.
they're finding that way to love, and the reason it's doing that is because then we're going to put Ellie in a situation where she's got to choose between this woman she loves and the revenge she wants, and
Yeah.
we need to make the audience feel that. And so in order to do that, we're spending day one in Seattle essentially as just like a date for the two of them. And
Yeah.
it's like, part of that is the joke of I'm going to be a dad. And then like, it's a funny moment
Well,
where
very
and
on
like people
brand
are
for
like,
Ellie's sense of humor as well.
yes,
Like,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
both game and show Ellie, I can see making that joke. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And like, there's people that are like, no, she's like hell bent on revenge. She should be like not focusing on anything but Joel and her revenge for Joel. And I was like, have you played the game? That's not really how it happens. I mean, like, when Nora is in her sights, or when one of the other Abby is like just out of reach, like, yeah, she like laser focuses on that, and like everything else is tossed aside. But like, the game is not Ellie doesn't crack a joke for
No.
the entire run of the game. That's just not what it is.
That's like, well, I mean, that was the defining point of their early chemistry in the game, from my memory, was that Dina
Yeah.
liked the same stupid fucking pun book that Ellie did, and that was like
Yeah.
one of the first things they sort of bond over, was like trading, and you know, and it's so much fun in the game, sort of having to unlock those bits of conversation and just eye roll it, like the two of them laughing at the
Yeah.
dumbest shit, but like it works.
Yeah, the
I-
early parts of Seattle are just literally the two of them like shooting the shit while
yeah,
exploring and trying to find their way through the city.
I did really like the way the show captured, though, that way Ellie kind of goes back and forth with this connection to her revenge. I think it was in the final episode where she's with Jesse and they kind of go up to look and see where Tommy is, and then she sees the whale and the wheel and the aquarium, and just completely shifts from, we need to say, like, just she's just just in the show she's just entirely like, oh, he'll be right.
Yeah.
And just completely loses herself to it, and like that was like sort of how it felt in the game. But I think it's easier in the game for you to not lose the focus, so you don't notice it as much. That Ellie like is kind of like, there are moments in the game I distinctly remember Ellie being pretty traumatized by what she'd been doing when she
Yeah.
came back to the theater to hang out with Dina.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, and it kind of rolls out much slower in the game than it does in the show, because
Yeah.
like we said, we move through it so quickly. But for sure, and I think it actually a kind of a clever solution in the show to kind of position the character of Jesse as almost this kind of moral arbiter for Ellie in those moments of like, Jesse is there to kind of show or demonstrate like what a good person could possibly look like.
Well, and yeah, he's the voice of the idea of community. I mean, they've
Yeah,
been,
yeah,
like they're very sort of explicit. They use the word community a lot whenever he's on screen.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and yeah, like, yeah, it's exactly like they use him to sort of show how her decisions are selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like, he's talking about community, and he's talking about how he came out here because of them, because they are part of his community and he cares
Yeah,
for them. And her response to that is basically just like, oh yeah, well, my community died. And it's like, and if you're like Jesse, you're like, what the fuck am I then? Like, like
yeah,
it is a perfect demonstration of Ellie's selfishness in that regard. Is that like, no, you have Dina, you have Jesse, you have the Tommy, you have these people that love and care for you at this community,
yeah.
and you are tossing them all aside for this thing that you want. I loved Ellie's speech back in Jackson, because it's such bullshit.
Yes, yeah.
And she does a really good job at selling the bullshit, but Bella Ramsey does a very good job at like selling
She doesn't believe
it, but also making it clear it's bullshit at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Like you're watching the speech and you're like, man, this is a good speech, but also I don't believe for a second that this is what Ellie thinks.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I also like. There's a line from Jesse in the last episode that's like, why did you come back for me or something? And Jesse says, because you would have done the same for me. And I was like, I actually don't know if Ellie would have done that. I actually don't know. I mean, maybe, but are you in her circle? Because if not,
Yeah, that's if you're in the circle, yes, she will burn the world down for you. Are you in the circle though? I think that's the more interesting
does Jesse
question
make
to
it
answer.
into the circle? Yeah, I don't know.
I actually really liked as well. I think something the Last of Us games and show have always been quite good at is like presenting things as I think this series loves kind of delving into gray areas and gray morality. And so like I did love that they challenged Jesse's community vibe as well in the final episode. Like Ellie points out, it's like, no, you did just let that other kid get like stripped and dragged off by the wolves because he wasn't in your community, and sort of challenging the idea that's like, yeah, your community is a bit bigger than mine, but like you're still willing to let horrible things happen to people outside of it. So that like they're not, they're also they don't hold Jesse up as like the perfect person. They're willing to criticize him as well. And you know, that's obviously I think the moment I really, really, really fell in love with the series was the ending to the first season / game, where you sort of like, Joel did a thing and I think it was bad, but also it's really hard to criticize. And I love when they dive into that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think the porch scene worked so well on me, is because like, there was definite, like, I think we talked about this the first time we covered that season and that game, where like when I played this game the first time, I was not a father, and so I got to the end of the game and I was just like, oh, Joel did the wrong thing. He was wrong in doing that. And then I had kids and I was like, oh yeah, no, I would have killed everyone in that hospital to save my kids, like 100%. I would not have batted an eye. And that's like I love this moment with Joel in that episode where he's like acknowledging this thing that he did, and he knows it was awful. He knows it was cruel and terrible. But he would do it all over again, and he will pay the price of that decision, which is perhaps losing his relationship with Ellie. But it's worth it for her to live. And that's like, I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, I love as well, like the angle they took. I don't know if this really comes up in the game, but like Ellie sort of really talks about how she wasn't consulted. Like he took the choice away from her. He did it, and he basically doubles down on that part too. Like he's like, that's also something. He's like, I just wasn't taking chances.
Yeah,
and it's one of those like, I want to disagree with that, but then also I get it. Like. I want people like Ellie to have agency over what their lives are going to amount to and mean and all that. But then also, not letting a 14-year-old be presented with the choice to kill herself for the greater good is a pretty reasonable take if you're turning into her dad. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a parent's job, essentially, is like to say that you, at 14 years old, you are not capable of fully understanding all sides of that decision, and so I'm going to make the decision for you. And it's like totally understandable that she's upset about that and pissed off about that. Like that makes perfect sense. Of course it does. But
it's
I think one thing I just to complain about people again. I hate there's a contingent of people out there that like have rewritten the narrative of Joel's choice there to be like, the Fireflies would have never been able to make the cure anyway. And so Joel was 100% unquestionably correct because they were stupid and couldn't have done that. And I think Neil Druckmann literally came out during the season and said, no, in like the world of the show and the game, they would have been able to make a cure and the cure would have worked. Like,
it's so much more interesting if there was a really good chance. Like that's just such a wild way to rewrite things.
It's just completely ruining what the morality and the stakes of the choice are, right? If it's just like, well, no, see, it was not a real cure, and they didn't have the equipment, and I'm like, just shut up and like take the moral choice, the Sophie's choice for what it is, which is that you're supposed to be choosing between the perhaps survival of the human race and your daughter. Like that is the point of the choice. I think it's ridiculous that the creator of the game has to come out and say that directly, but this is the world we live in, and so he felt like he had to do that.
Probably not the stupidest clarification an author's had to come out and make it either, but yeah.
I loved Catherine O'Hara in this show.
Yeah.
She's only in 3 episodes, but man, Gale was great. I love Gale.
I don't know if she just like wasn't in the game or I just hadn't gotten up to her, but yeah, great addition.
No, totally new character. Yeah. So basically, the character of Eugene in the game was like you've seen all of Eugene essentially. He was like when they hide out in the weed storage hut. That's Eugene's, and that's all we know is that that is Eugene's place, and Eugene died. And so they took that character, they matched him up with Catherine O'Hara's character, and then they built a story around that idea. And I love it. It's so good. This is when I think the show is at its best, when it's like it's taking the world of the game and the story of the game that I've played and loved, and then finding new nooks and crannies to explore.
Oh, and introducing like a psychologist or psychotherapist or whatever they called her into like a place like Jackson is just such a like, it's like, yeah, okay, you definitely would need some sort of mental health professional in this world, but then also, yeah, like she really skirts the ethical boundaries as well, because like who's going to take her license, you know? So like she gets to trade like, you know, sessions for weed and just kind of yell at Joel for bits, even though he kind of did deserve it. But like, I that was a fascinating angle to the world to dive into, that the game, it just would have been boring as hell if you'd really tried to dive into like psychotherapy in the game.
Yeah, it just, you couldn't do it, but it works very well here. And like, the idea of who psychoanalyzes the psychoanalyst is perfect. Because like I love the opening salvo of her episode, that first episode where she is talking to Joel and then finishes it by saying, "I hate you." And you're like, oh shit. That was great stuff. And
I'm not a qualified therapist, but like I'm pretty certain they're told not to do that.
I'm gonna get my doctorate. I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna become a therapist, and I'm gonna end every session with my clients and say, "Oh, by the way, I hate you." And we'll see how we do.
But like, even like, I really loved the part where Tommy goes to talk to her because he's worried about Ellie, and she just basically says, "Yeah, some people you can't really save," and it's like, oh yeah, this is also the problem when like the entire system is essentially reduced down to one person. It's like when they've reached their limits, that's just it.
Yeah, that's not what anyone wants to hear. You don't want to hear that. Hey, sometimes you just got to cut your losses.
No,
and obviously he doesn't listen because he runs to Seattle.
Yeah,
but man,
but like, yeah, you know, this is like, if this was happening in the modern world and somebody was saying that about a girl like Elliot, I'd be like, okay, well, you were just not the psychologist for them. We need to move them somewhere else. But that's not an option in a place like Jackson, and so it's just fascinating sort of aspect of a post-apocalyptic world to dive into.
Yeah. What did you think about the change with Mel's death? So refresh your memory. Mel is the pregnant woman.
Yes.
In the game, she super kills Mel. She like in the show they made it like an accident. Like she shoots Owen and the bullet nicks Mel and kills her as well. In the game, she super kills Mel, intentionally kills her, and then discovers afterwards that she's pregnant.
Because that confused me, because I was like, oh, I didn't remember learning she was pregnant till after I'd killed her, because especially with all the stuff going on with Dina, that's a bit of a moment for Ellie of like, oh, like, you know, after giving Dina all this shit for putting herself at risk of being pregnant, then you sort out someone killed them and found out they were pregnant. And it's like, check yourself. I kind of wrote it off as like if she'd knowingly killed somebody who she maybe could have known was pregnant, you might just lose the audience. Whereas when it's the game again, because you are Ellie, you're way more willing to forgive her when she does something monstrous because you kind of were along there with her, and it's just like she was just having a bad day. She was just having a bad day. Whereas like I can see a world where like if she kills someone who's pregnant in the show, we're not as much, we don't embody Ellie as much, and like I could just see maybe they're worried that a lot of the audience would just be like, oh, I can't get behind this character ever again.
Yeah. And then I think they tacked on a scene at the end of it where the dying Mel is like begging Ellie to cut the baby out of her.
Yeah, that was harsh. Yeah, I love that.
It's brutal, but I think it also aligns with like this lesson that Ellie is learning about like watching the people around her like sacrifice their life for the sake of others.
Yes.
In a way that I think Ellie is still kind of learning about. And I think part of that is because basically we leave that moment and Ellie has returned back to the theater and she's basically like, oh, I fucked up. I went too far. Like,
yeah.
And of course that is unfortunately cut short by the arrival of Abby, but like it is.
Well,
like,
who does agree, to be fair, they're on exactly the same page about that specific incident.
Yes, no, totally. But like, I think what we need is like, because I don't want to say rushed, but the last beats of this, like going from killing Nora in the way she did, essentially torturing and killing Nora, to killing a pregnant woman, like happens very, very fast time span wise in the show. And it takes a little bit more time in the game for you to get to those two parts. And so I think what they really wanted to accentuate the fact that this is going to rock Ellie to her core and make her go like, whoa, wait a minute. I fucked up. And I do think the addition of having this dying woman say, don't worry, forget about me, just save my baby, cut this baby out of me, get this baby out. And like, is like watching a person who's dying, who harmed her, like put someone else's life above her own, is part of that realization process. And that is like, that ties in with, I think, her conversation with Jesse about community and what it means to be a part of a community. And these are all things that she's learning. And so I think that addition really helps sell that. And I agree with you. Like the quote unquote accidental killing of Mel was literally just like, we're going to lose everyone if this woman like walks up and stabs a pregnant woman, even if she doesn't learn that she's pregnant until after, like everyone's gonna be like, man, fuck this show. I'm done.
Whereas like, I think the game, because the game makes you do the stabbing, you are much more willing to take Ellie's side of, I didn't know, oh shit. Like, because you see yourself as, you know, an accessory or something.
Yeah. You can't abandon her because you did it too. Like it was you that pressed the button.
And I think that's what I was really enjoying about both the Last of Us games, is how much they were really playing with that sense of like making you do things that you weren't actually sure you wanted to do. Because so like even the other Naughty Dog games like Uncharted, you know, you're just kind of along for the ride and having a good time doing all the dumb shit that the protagonists are doing. And then The Last of Us really hits you at the end of the first game where they're like, I don't know about this, guys. Like, I'm doing it, but like, oh boy. And like The Last of Us 2 was really doubling down on that. And I thought that was one of the strengths of the game.
I mean, it took kind of the mindless slaughter that you do of people in Uncharted, and it made that part of the story in The Last of Us. Is that like you are like, you kill a lot of people in The Last of Us 2 as you are waking your way through Seattle. You are murdering so many people and dogs, so many dogs, and like, you are meant to feel the weight of that. Like they program the game to have these people having conversations and with each other and like calling out for help and like being scared, and like the game wants you to feel the weight of this. And like, I think we talked about this a bit last time we talked, but like there was a lot of critiques when the game first came out that is like, well, but you don't give me a choice though. I have to kill these people anyway. I still have to kill them. And it's like, well, yes, but like the point of the game is not giving you an option between A and B and then watching which you decide to pick. The point of the game is I'm going to make you pick A, but I want you to feel what it's like to pick A.
Yes.
And then show you like why B would have been the better choice.
Which, to be fair, I think it's a totally valid thing to say. I don't want to play the game that makes me do that. Like that's if somebody's sort of like, I don't like that. It's like, okay, like yeah, fair enough. Like then these games are not for you. But yeah, like personally, I'm all about it. Like kind of being forced to question what I'm doing. And you're right. Whereas in so many other games, I'm just walking around killing people, and they're just NPCs.
Yeah.
I liked that The Last of Us really made me consider the lives I was taking as I continued to take them.
For sure. Like my favorite attitude that this game and the show has is, I believe Joel sings a song, and I can't remember the name of the song. Hold on. I'm going to look this up because I want to get this right. Oh, he sings Future Days.
Yes.
Which I believe is a Pearl Jam song, right? Yeah, it's a Pearl Jam song. But it's a Pearl Jam song that came out in 2013. So in the world of The Last of Us, this song does not exist. Right? Yeah. The world ended in 2003, I believe. So the song should not exist. But like the creators of the show were like, hey, this song really fits, so I don't fucking care.
Yeah, that's absolutely like where poetic license has to come beyond like come before like being nitpickily accurate. I feel
totally.
Like
yeah. I mean, like that's just the better choice. It's like if you find something that works, who ultimately who cares about like when the song came out? No one that matters would actually care about that. What else did you specifically like? So, one more thing I want to talk about that I didn't like.
Oh yeah.
My least favorite moment in the 7th episode, which was a very good episode of TV, was Ellie is heading towards the aquarium. She gets hit by a big wave and gets washed up on the Seraphite Island.
Right.
Is grabbed by the Seraphites, hung, and then Isaac's attack begins, and they just let her go. And she
just does it again.
She just hops back on the boat and heads back. And you're like, what was the purpose of that sequence?
That part actually really jumped out to me because I remember thinking this feels like it's an artifact from the video game, but I don't remember this happening. But like that feels so video gamey to be like, you're in the boat. Oh no, you got sent back, but now you're back in the boat and we can do it again.
Yeah, it does not happen in the game. No. I think like this is again, like, so it's not a spoiler to say the events on the Seraphite Island are going to matter to the Abby section of the story. Yes. But they do not take place in the Ellie section of the story at all. And it almost felt like they just wanted to remind us that was there. And like we're supposed to be seeing in the background that Isaac is massing this huge attack on the Seraphite Island, that like this is their big play. They're losing the war of attrition against the Seraphites, and so before they lose too many of their people to them, they're just going to mount this huge offensive that is just going to eliminate these people forever. That is his plan. And we're supposed to, in the Ellie sections, kind of see that happening in the background. And I guess they felt like it wasn't enough to just see the island on fire. We needed to like jump there real quick and establish this is the island that the Seraphites live on, and then carry on with the plot. But it felt so clunky. It felt so weird.
I agree. My favorite part of it was when Ellie's just in the boat and we see the giant explosions and she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I feel like just sort of establishing, like when her and Jesse were out there and she was looking down at the aquarium, you could have just established that was the Seraphite Island there. And I feel like that would have kind of got, maybe been a little bit more brief or whatever, but got you 80% of the way there and kind of not felt as just I do just the whole time I was like, this feels like like a weird leftover from the video game, but I don't remember that happening.
I actually listened to they have the things after the credits where they have the creators talk about the show a little bit, and they did talk about that sequence. And one of the things they said about that sequence that was actually really interesting was, in their head, Ellie is heading towards this thing. She's like solely focused on this thing. She's washed up on this beach and then immediately taken captive and almost dies. And then her choice after surviving a near death experience is to carry on with her plan anyway. And so I think in their minds it was like representative of this damn everything else determinism that she had in that moment of like, it doesn't matter what happens to me, I'm going to carry out my plan no matter what. But I don't think it actually plays that way in the moment, because there was never a doubt in my mind that Ellie was going to hop back in that boat and then be like, you know what, on second thought, I'm not going to go to the aquarium. Like, I just don't think I don't think that works.
I feel like we established that in the scene with her and Jesse, like before she goes to get in the boat. Like you know, that was already sort of that moment for her in my head. It was like she was just like, oh fuck Tommy, he'll be fine. He's a big boy, and like she went off on her own. It was like I don't know. I feel like we'd already hit that enough.
Yeah. I think episode 7 was really good. That was the one moment that stood out to me as like, that feels so weird. And I think because the episode is so good and tight, that like that one moment it really just sticks out even more, where you're like, you could just cut this whole 5 minutes out and nothing of value would be lost.
Do gotta say though, like as much as I want to complain about modern TV production pipelines and how much slower they are, God, the scenes where she was out on the boat looked good though.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the show,
Seattle
the show
behind
in general.
her. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm constantly amazed at how much like the sets just look exactly like they did in the game. Like, you know, when they go into like bookstores and stuff, every time I'm just like, holy shit, that's exactly it. And that's so incredible, because the game obviously has complete carte blanche. Everything's like a computer generated model or whatever. The fact that they're able to build sets that are, I'm just constantly amazed at the production value.
Yeah. And then in episode 2, they turned the Joel Dies episode into also there's a giant battle episode.
Yeah.
And so like, this is a show that can both afford to do that and take the time to have a whole battle sequence, which, I mean, I don't think that was my favorite part of the season, was the battle for Jackson. But it like was well-made TV. It was exciting for sure. There was a second there where I was like, are they going to kill Tommy on the same episode that Joel dies?
Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't say it was my favorite example of what we were talking about, where like you can expand the world and show us bits that wouldn't have worked as well in the game. But it was definitely like it was overall, I'd call it an improvement. Like I was like, that was the sort of scene that wouldn't have worked as well in the game for a couple of reasons. But I really liked it in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cutting back and forth with the Joel stuff works in the show. I think in the game I would have been frustrated. Well, first of all, it wouldn't work because of the point of view idea that you're stuck in a point of view, so you really can't cut back and forth like that. But also like, man, I just like I think the Joel death scene works so well in both game and show. I understand why they let us know who Abby was before the Joel stuff. Like, I totally get it in the show. There was a part of me that was a little disappointed, because one of the coolest things about the Abby sequence in the game is you're playing as this girl and you have no idea who she is. And you have like, they're talking like broadly about that they're looking for someone, but the game does not let you know who they're looking for. And there's a moment where she runs into Joel and Tommy, and you can kind of see her react to learning Joel's name, but you don't know why she's reacting that way. And so it builds this like suspicion and concern and tension over time of, you're like, something's wrong here. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but there's something wrong here. And then of course the moment where you realize that, oh no, she wants to kill him, just lands perfectly. And you lost that in the show for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I guess because that's part of that big swing, right? Is you jumping in Abby's head. So you're like, what's up with this girl? Then she does something horrible to Joel, and I mean, I doubt I was sort of the only person to suspect that it was, you know, based on what he did at the end of the first game.
Yeah, you can make a logical leap there.
Like you know, I don't know that like, you know, I didn't guess that she was, you know, the doctor's daughter or anything, but you're sort of like, she's probably like a firefly.
Yeah.
But yeah, to sort of, but you don't sort of quite understand why it's so personal for her. So it is this sort of betrayal sort of feeling, and that was definitely kind of what they lost in the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, for sure. Still great. I like the death was great. It was one of those things where like you saw the memes everywhere where everyone who had played the game knew it was coming and was like watching their friends who didn't
Yeah,
know it was
yeah.
coming instead of watching the TV.
Oh, that was me. I watched it with my family, none of whom had played the game. I think one of my sisters is, chronically online enough to have picked up that this was coming at some point. But my parents and my other sister had absolutely no clue. And yeah, I stopped watching the scene just because I wanted to see their faces. And they were talking about, like, when he first gets shot in the leg, my whole family was just like, oh, it's going to take him a while to recover from. And I was like, oh yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, I mean it's just because like it's Joel is the show, and like
Yeah.
like Joel was the game, and that's why like it's such a like I will always have respect for the creators of this thing for
Hmm.
doing that, because it was this incredibly risky decision of like this guy was the story, he was it, and we think we have a story to tell that takes him out of it, that kills him, and it's like
Yeah.
damn respect, y'all.
Yeah, it's bold to challenge the player/audience like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, based on my understanding of, the discourse that surrounded that game, I'd call it a mixed success at best, ultimately,
Oh,
unfortunately. But that's more of a criticism of the audience in my mind than
yeah. There,
than the
there are
creator.
definitely people who have made it their entire personality to be mad about that choice. Still, 5 years later, do not go to the Last of Us subreddit. It is a cesspool of people that are still furious about this game, which is just wild to me. Like I love the game. I truly love the game. I think it's brilliant. I think it's beautiful. I also think it's very fun to play. Like as a
Yeah,
small
yeah.
note. But like I'm totally understandable of people who didn't like it. But if you don't like it, just say,
Move on.
"Oh, I don't like it." Okay, I'm just gonna carry on living my life now. Just the idea that you just become obsessed with it to the point where you're just like the amount of people that were like gleefully celebrating the fact that the ratings on season 2 took a pretty big hit was just wild to me. Like why do you care
Yeah.
that much?
I hope one day I can love something as much as these people hate this video game, like,
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah,
yeah,
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, I've had decisions made on things that I loved that I did not agree with on like adaptations or just sequels or
yeah,
whatever, and it's like, yeah, you don't like it and you're disappointed and you might speak negatively to it, but that's it. Then
yeah.
then life moves on.
There's plenty of other good shit out there. Yeah, intentionally dwelling on the negativity is just a choice that I
Yep.
don't quite understand.
Yep.
Um,
Uh,
on a some related, I just want to chuck this in before I forget. But obviously, I'd never seen Caitlin Diva in anything
oh,
until 3 weeks before this season started. She was in like a big, like Australian. Well, it was a Netflix show, but it was set in Australia where she played an
okay.
Australian, and it was very funny because she had the best Australian accent to the point where I found out after watching Apple Cider Vinegar that she was in The Last of Us, and I was like, "Oh, cool, like an Aussie actress in that." And then found out she actually wasn't Australian; she was American. And I was like, I didn't know they could do that. I didn't know Americans could do Australian accents that sound like Australian accents. Um, so she, like, just between The Last of Us and Apple Cider Vinegar in the last few months, she's just immediately like skyrocketed up my list of like actresses. I just sort of am like, okay, like if you're in it, it's probably worth a chance because you seem to be like doing good shit.
Yeah, I think she's only in this show for 3 episodes, right? And I think she's fantastic in them. Like the line that we joked about in the opening of the show is that I saved like I spared your life and you wasted it. I think or I
Yes.
let you live and you wasted it is like she nails that line read. That's perfect. Um, she was in a movie called Booksmart that was kind of like 2019's follow up to um oh my god, what's the name? What's the name of the? Why can't I remember? I feel like I'm getting old now because I can't remember names of things anymore.
So, yeah, this is my other issue with the modern TV production pipeline. I'm just gonna barge in to give you some time to try and remember. But like, yeah, my memory is getting worse, and then also there's less episodes and they're further apart. It's just becoming impossible. Like, I sit down to watch a new season, and there's a 5-minute recap, and I'm still like, oh man, that's fuzzy as hell. Like,
yes.
it used to be 20 episodes. They were about 6 months apart, and there were less shows I was watching, and also, yeah, my brain wasn't as atrophied.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm getting older, the gaps are getting longer. Like, we just all these things are conspiring to make TV harder and harder to follow. Like, I'm probably going to need a refresher for season 3 of The Last of Us, which is crazy because I've played and seen it, so like that shouldn't be necessary, but it's probably going to be.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Also, thank you for giving me enough time because the movie I was thinking about was super bad. So Booksmart is like a two college girls on the eve of their high school graduation, trying to go to a party and cram all the fun that they missed out on in college in one night. So it is kind of a spiritual successor to Superbad. Also, it has Beanie Feldstein in it, who I believe is Jonah Hill's sister. So it's like super spiritual successor to Superbad. But she's the other lead in it. Caitlin Dever is, and she's very good in that.
You did have me at spiritual successor to Superbad. I haven't seen Superbad in years, but I loved it at the time.
Yeah. If you like Deaver, I think one other thing I'd recommend is there was a movie that came out in 2023 that I think went straight to Hulu. It's a Brian Duffield written and directed movie called No One Will Save You, and it is essentially a alien invasion film in which the lead character played by Deaver is like homebound and mute. She doesn't speak. Like, she went through a really traumatic incident and stopped speaking, and so it has no dialogue in it, and it's just her trying to escape from aliens trying to kidnap her.
Cool.
It's really good, actually.
So that cool made it sound like I'm like, yeah, trauma, but like, yeah, no, yeah, I like that premise. She was also in Dear Evan Hansen, right? I never got around to seeing that, but
yeah. Well, we kind of don't pretend, or we pretend that movie never happened, and we're all better for it. But yes, she was the love interest in Dear Evan Hansen as well.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm just like, I don't know. It was so weird seeing her play an Australian character as her first one and finding out she wasn't. I've just never seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that Australians and British folk can do American accents, but I'm pretty sure the only American that has ever done a good like British accent is Lindsay Lohan in The Parent Trap, and that's it. That's the full list.
What about Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins?
Oh yeah. I've never heard of an American doing an Australian accent successfully, though.
No, well, actually, my sister actually sent me an interview with Caitlin Dever where she was talking about. So she had like an Australian dialect coach for the show, and basically just found it was too hard. So what she just had was she had the dialect coach record every line of dialogue in her Australian accent, and then she just like learned it like it was a song.
Wow.
Which is just bonkers because she was the lead in this 6-episode miniseries. So that's thousands of lines. And she was just kind of, she said she was using like the musical part of her brain. But to rote learn them like music.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that was just like sort of learning that. I was like, okay, like you are a very competent person and I'm going to follow like your career now because like, that's dedication. And because I think she said she gave up. The word no was apparently the word that she decided she couldn't do an Australian accent. She's like, that's the hardest word to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to try. So
no, it's funny because this conversation in Australia then leads to a bunch of people sitting in a room going, no. Oh yeah, weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is why, like, I think I liked season 1 of this show better than season 2 overall. Um,
Mm.
but I am also at a place where, like, I am just very excited for the potential of season 3. I think, like, with Caitlin Deaver kind of stepping into the lead role essentially,
Yeah.
and knowing where the game goes and how the game tells the story of what will be season 3. And also maybe that also gives it the runway to really dive into these characters like Isaac and the Seraphites and really dive into these things in a way that we kind of only scratched the surface with this season. I really do feel like this has the potential to be the best season of the show. And then, like, then you look back on the show when all is said and done, and you've got these 7 episode season 2 in the middle that was, maybe a little bit lesser than the other ones. It's like that won't matter. That
No.
no one will be talking about that, if season 3 and 4 are excellent. And I think there's a really good chance of that happening. So I left this season kind of pondering the structural stuff and wondering if this is going to ultimately work, but being very excited for the future. Yeah, I just wish it's not going to take 2 years for it to get here.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I was sort of going to say as you started that, like, it does. It almost feels weird to compare seasons 1 and 2 of this show, because season 1 was a complete unit. It told the whole first game
Yeah.
story, or whatever. Season 2, I liked it, but, like, it doesn't feel like it feels like a part of a story. It doesn't feel like a
Yeah.
complete unit of this story, and that's probably, like, why it sort of sits funny. Is, yeah, like, when we get season 3 and this arc finishes, it might just be easier to view the two of them together in a really good light. But it's kind of
Yeah.
annoying having a two-year break in what's essentially feels like the middle of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how they do it. I wonder if there's going to be some kind of pull or desire to cut back to Ellie at all during the course of that season. I would understand
Mm.
if they have that feel like they have to do something like that.
But if for no other reason than just, like, partially for a kind of keep your actors happy, like
Yeah.
or keep
Yeah.
them around even. Like
Yeah,
that
it
that's
would be
been
very strange for, like, for both Bella Ramsey and for Isabella Merced to just be like, okay, you're in the show, we're definitely gonna need you, but, like, not for like 4 years.
yeah, yeah. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, like, sort of rereading the Expanse books and sort of seeing, the show obviously had to do a lot of things because real world production means you can't do the vision of the books perfectly or whatever. So some of the compromises
Mhm.
are this is better for TV, and other ones are just this is impractical for TV.
Mhm.
Um, and I assumed doing season 3 just as Abby and season 2 mostly just Ellie would have been in that bucket too, but apparently not. So it's yeah, interesting. Like
Yeah, they're gonna
I
find a way.
yeah.
We'll see. 2027 is just right around the corner. Oh, Jesus. All right. Well,
Sorry, I will just say as well. I thought it was because as I was playing the game, it didn't become apparent to me till towards the end of Ellie's segment, like about where the show got up to. It was sort of like, oh, I
mhm.
was meant to be paying better attention to who Abby's friends were, like, especially because I was streaming it and people were being like, oh, what did you think of, like, Nora's death? And I was like, which one was that? I've done so many murders, you're gonna have to be more specific. Um, and I do think the show prime. I don't know whether it was because I'd played the game already, but I feel like the show did prime us a little bit better to, like, actually sort of do better tracking who people like Owen and Mel and Nora were. It's going to be interesting to see how they pick that up in 2 years when everyone's had,
Yeah.
like, a pretty lengthy break.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think, like, the show highlights them in a way that you pay attention for sure. But
Yeah,
I do think it is part of the game that, like, you don't see these people as people, and therefore you don't remember them as much. They're all the stepping stools to Abby. And so, like, I feel like the comments you got from people in that regard were people that have knowledge that
yeah.
we're about to do a perspective switch and we're going to learn more about those people as people. Um,
I like that because
so
that makes me seem like less of a vague monster. And it's like, no, that was somewhat intentional. I can get behind, because that makes it less my fault that I just was murdering people and didn't even bother to really focus on what their names were.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you're a monster, but
yeah. No, unfortunately, that's also part of the game. Is that like
yeah.
the point of highlighting that these are people later on is to point out that you're a monster because you didn't care before. But, at least I'm going through the intended arc.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh man! All right. Anything else you wanted to say about season 2 of The Last of Us?
I don't know. It could have just been 16 episodes, and anyway, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so my only guess here, and this is not confirmed. This is just complete speculation. But my only guess is that the writer strike of last summer messed up production to the point where they had to cut the total number of episodes in the season. Like, because 7 is such a weird number.
That makes a lot. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I'm going to kind of headcanon that now, because that makes it make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I don't know, like, what that would have looked like where you expand it, what more you do, but yeah, it just feels like 7 just feels like a weird choice. Like, I'm not saying it had to be 10, but 7 is weird.
Yeah, or even just, yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of arched eyebrows at this whole 2-year gap between the Ellie and the Abby part. Again, as an expert on it, because I accidentally took a 4-year gap right there, and I can tell you it's a dumb place to stop the story for an extended period of time. So like, I just have to believe that like it's going to be better to watch this 2 seasons back to back in the future, and so the idea that was originally the intended thing, and then production had to change because of the strike, kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I do appreciate, so like, one of the things that when I was thinking of where the season would actually end, one of the things like would be, I wonder if we're going to end on the gunshot. Like, Abby says that to Ellie. We go to black, hearing a gunshot, which I don't think it's a spoiler to say, like, we're probably not just going to murder Abby or murder Ellie, and that's the game, right? Yeah, like, that's probably not going to be how it goes down. But like, I was wondering it, and I actually think the choice that they made to do the cut to Abby, and like, at least in the last 5 minutes, establish like, this is what season 3 is going to be, I think was ultimately a smart decision, of like, to give people enough understanding of like, you see day 1 pop up on screen again, you're with Abby, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
this is what we're doing.
No, I 100% agree. And that, yeah, like, I think, as I said, I played the first like 10 seconds of the first day 1 Abby thing, and was a bit like, oh, this is really cool. And I think it would have been, yeah, it's not a good extended cliffhanger to leave us on the sort of cut to black after Ellie gets shot at, because you would have just been expecting to pick up from that in 2 years and probably disappointed.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, you think you're finally going to see the resolution of, did Abby just shoot Ellie, and then the show starts and it's
Abby's the main character.
Yeah, wait a minute, what the fuck happened? Yeah, so intelligent choice there for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is The Last of Us season 2. We will be back in 2 years to talk about season 3 and see if they pulled off everything we think they need to.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think, as I said at the opening of this, nitpicks aside, I still think this was just great TV, and it's going to age really well, hopefully. So
yeah, I agree. Also, you need to go finish that game. Stat.
Yeah,
Can you do it before 2027? Is that achievable?
I mean, it really should be, but also, I haven't made any progress in 4 years, so I can't say for sure.
Fair. That's fair. All right, folks, if you have any opinions on The Last of Us Season 2 or on The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, please reach out and let us know. We want to hear what you guys thought of the season. How did they adapt the game? How do you think they're going to adapt the second half of the game? What changes do you think they need to make or will make? Let us know. You can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, over on Twitter @doofmedia, or you can find us on our subreddit, reddit.com/r/doofmedia.
Yes, and if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please do so. That way you won't miss any episodes. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the podcast places. I mean,
All of them.
you're listening to this now. Just go there.
Go to the place that you're at. Yeah. You can find this and all of our other shows, including Belting at Windmills, Elliot's brand new show covering the Expanse book series, over at doofmedia.com. And if you want to support Doof Media, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/doofmedia, where you can pledge at any of the available levels and get a whole bunch of bonus features, including we're still going through the television show From, an episode at a time. We're a little bit behind on that because of Matt's vacation, but we'll catch up once he's back. We also book club is in a few weeks, and we're going to be voting on a new book then, and patrons get to do that. So make sure you head on over there for all that sweet bonus content.
Yes, and now that We Heart Games is finally kicking up again, maybe there'll be a vote for a game soon if we can ever finish Blueprints. Can't recommend Blueprints enough, except also don't play it unless you want to lose 100 hours of your life to like puzzle.
It's funny, I downloaded that game. Like, I purchased it, downloaded it, and then I've not yet played it. And I'm like, when am I going to do this? I gotta spend some time on this.
I was like gushing about it to Jenny on a call, and then she was like, "Oh, I should like pick this up. I'll just play a bit here and there." And I was like, "Oh, it's not that kind of game." Like I was like, I think Ruben and I's Google Doc is at like 300 pages of
Jesus Christ.
Notes, and a lot of that's because it's screenshots. But like, we are still constantly being like, "Oh, we haven't been thorough enough. We should have taken more notes." So like, I am obsessed with this game, and I love this game, but also don't really pick it up unless you're ready to go fully in. I don't think it's a game that's fun if you're kind of just like poking around the edges.
Yeah. Noted. I will set aside some time. When is your kind of final stream, your game over stream, if that's what you still call it, on that one going to be?
It's in the middle of July. I think it's July 16th or something. It was meant to be last week, but basically Ruben and I are so obsessed and we didn't want to stop, so we had to push it back a month and a half because we realized we'd probably have another 50 hours we want to play.
Nice. So you're saying there's still time for me to play the game? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Cool. And that'll be over on our do you stream that on Twitch or on YouTube? I can't remember which one you do.
On YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that'll be on the Doof Media YouTube account. So look out for that there. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube so you can see when they go live to talk about Blueprints. It's the hot game right now. Everyone's talking about it.
It is. It's so good, but also like, I just have to caveat saying that every time but like you got to really get into it for it to hit. I feel like
fair.
But so you can find all of those shows as well on doofmedia.com. Our nice new website. This is the first time I've been on here since we got the new website. So it's the first time for me to say how much I really like our new version. And if you like what we do, like these shows, want to vote, head on. Also support us on like Apple Podcasts and I don't know if any of the other podcast platforms support reviews, but reviews, the algorithm loves it. It eats them up, and then that's how you get more people to listen to this show, which just helps us make it and put it together.
Yeah. I think Spotify like lets you leave a rating, but you don't get to like write a review. I think that's how that works.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the most review friendly one is still Apple Podcasts for whatever reason.
Yeah. So if subscribing and Patreoning wasn't enough, hit us up with a rating and a review too.
Yeah. Or just just like scream to people that you see in public about how good the show is.
Yeah, word of mouth is also valid.
All right, folks. Next week, Matt is still on vacation. He's taken a very long vacation. So I do not believe we will be having an episode of this show next week. But when Matt returns, we will be picking up where we left off with Paul Thomas Anderson. We're going to be covering his film Magnolia, which is, I know, one that Matt hasn't seen. So I'm pretty excited. Pretty excited to get into that one for sure. But thanks so much for coming, Elliot. This was great. It's always fun talking to you. And good luck with the game stream and the podcast. And hopefully we'll have you back sooner than 2 years from now.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back in the groove of things. Oh yeah, one day we're going to do season 3 of Legend of Korra. That's
Oh yeah, we do have
Totally,
to do that. Yeah.
it's totally
Shit.
still a thing that is on my list of things that are really happening.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
you keep talking it up as it's like the best season, and
it is my
we
favorite. It's
stopped
such
on
an
the worst
annoying
season, and I
spot to
haven't
have
watched it
stopped.
since. Yeah, we'll get
And they
there.
are
We'll get
they're
there. I
doing a
promise.
bunch more in that universe again soon. So
I heard that. Did you ever watch the live action one?
yeah, I did. It was fine. I think it was one of those things where I thought it was okay, but I found myself defending it because everybody else was too harsh on it.
Yeah.
So then it seemed like I really liked it, and I was like, no, no, no. To be clear, I just thought this was pretty okay and kind of unnecessary. But like,
Hmm.
I don't know. They made a bunch of changes that I actually thought were improvements, and a lot of people were hating on them just because they were changes, and that's like a pet peeve of mine is when people hate changes in adaptations because it's changing the source material.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't understand this. Like recently, Mike Flanagan, who owns the rights to the Dark Tower right now, appeared on a podcast and talked about his Dark Tower adaptation and the struggle of adapting it. And one of the things he talked about is the Dark Tower is a story that is very connected to both stories outside of Stephen King's oeuvre, but also very connected to other Stephen King stories. And the
Mm,
problem with doing that in an adaptation is like the rights for some of those stories are very weird. It's like which
yeah, right.
which company owns the rights to this book and this character, and like it's very messy. And so he said on the show, basically like, I might have to come up with some contingency plans if we can't get the rights to this character from Warner Brothers or something. We might have to do something else. And like after that, there were all these posts were like, you just shouldn't do it. If you're gonna change things, you just shouldn't do it. And I was like, what is the point of an adaptation then? Like, do you really just want to see like a beat
Yeah,
for beat visual recreation of your book? Like, I just don't understand the like if you're going to make something that is an adaptation of an existing thing, I want to see changes. Like I want to see
yeah.
your take on the material.
Although to specifically address the character rights thing, if he just waits 5 years, Disney will probably own the rest of them anyway.
That's
Like,
true. That's true.
so like for that particular instance, but yeah, no, the Avatar one was very interesting because it was a TV show to TV show adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun kind of thinking about why they made some of the changes they did. Like some of them I disagreed with, but some of them I was like they actually kind of went into like the crew of Zuko's ship in season one a lot more
Ooh,
and their
interesting.
backstory. And I found that fascinating. And I thought it was a huge improvement and kind of it, like also improved Zuko's season one arc because I think Zuko has a great arc in the show, but like season one's probably his weakest season. And like they
Hmm.
kind of, were able to retroactively look and be like, oh, this is one of the most interesting characters in the show. Actually, let's like beef up the depth of his season one plot. So they were improved. Yeah, I thought people were unnecessarily harsh on it. That said, it is kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, like that. I don't know. Like, I agree. Like a cartoon to live action TV show to TV show adaptation is probably always going to be unnecessary. And
Yeah,
that's like, so if we have to live in a world in which that exists, I would rather see them be creative and do something different with it than just
yeah,
remake the show, but this time it's not a cartoon.
yeah.
So
Weirdly, it seemed to trust its audience less to connect dots. So like some of the dialogue was a lot like clunkier and more exposition-y. So like, that was like the one weird part is I was like, you seem to think your audience is dumber than the kids cartoon one. Um, So, like, yeah,
well,
there were definitely problems with it, but like, yeah, I thought people were unnecessarily harsh on it. I thought overall it was like a good time, and yeah, it
well
made some
that
interesting changes that I think the original show might have wanted to do, and if they
mhm.
had a second draft.
I think a lot of that though is probably just part of like Netflix designs its television these days to be a second screen thing. Like
Mm.
they write like the specific notes coming from Netflix are like you have to repeat stuff over and over again because people are on their
Yeah,
phones
okay,
while they're watching
I can
TV
see
and
that.
you need them to say the plot so people can be like, "Oh yeah, that's the plot." And I wonder if that's part of it.
Did we learn nothing from Quibi?
No. Quibi taught us nothing. We learned nothing. No lessons were learned there.
That's
Sorry.
something I still want to get somebody at one point. I want to do a podcast where we go through and watch everything that Quibi put out. Um,
I
Just
definitely like tried it out, like because I think I got the free trial, and I forgot what all things there was like a most dangerous game Quibi that was like a guy was being hunted, sort of like the Running Man, and then I remember there was one that Dan Harmon's wife wrote about.
yes, that's the one I want. It was like Anna Kendrick or something,
Yes,
and
yes,
she goes on like a road trip with her husband's sex doll who talks to her or
yes,
something. And like,
yes.
just the more details I learn about that, the more I was like, I have to see this because that's just like from top to bottom so fucking bonkers.
Oh, Quibi.
Like,
I'm so sad
that
you didn't
was
catch on.
yeah, that was like one of those bright spots of that whole pandemic thing, is like watching weird shit like that happen and just going like, man,
Yeah.
people are dumb.
All right. Well, we'll have to do the Quibi episode. Can you watch Quibis anywhere?
I was looking this up because
Man.
I was talking to Jenny about it. I wanted to try and team up with Jenny to do a Quibi show. And I think they're all on something called Roku now, which is in the US.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
We
Yeah.
don't have that here, but yeah. So I don't know how I'll watch it, but
I
apparently they
think it's
moved all their content
free.
to Roku. Great
Yeah.
purchase by Roku, I'm sure.
Yeah. How much did they pay to acquire all Quibis? For like $5.
Too much, still too much.
Well, I look forward to the Quibi show. That's going to be very, very great. I look forward to listening to that.
Yeah, wasn't there? Didn't they have a show where somebody got possessed by? Or they replaced half of their arm with like a solid gold replica and then got sick from it or something. It
What?
just it just sounds like every show was just a stupid idea, and I
I
just
mean,
love that for them.
they literally just gave did like any idea. So it
Yeah,
was like, yeah, you got it, do it. So
yeah. No,
wild.
I just the whole thing was fascinating, and I want to revisit it and be like, what were we thinking?
Oh man, this is a perfect way to end the show. I love this. Yeah, the Anna Kendrick one was just called Dummy.
That's right. And I remember learning ages after like first hearing about it that it was because I remember I'd heard that it was like written by somebody based on like a real experience with her husband or something, and then like a year later finding out it was Dan Harmon and being like, that makes
Yeah,
it even better.
yeah. Because Dan Harmon has a thing with mannequin legs, I think, or something that he was very, very public about on his podcast at the time.
Right. Okay.
And I think actually just had a sex doll. Yeah, and so yeah, it's perfect.
I will say like. If I don't think Dan Harmon is a perfect person or perfect creator or whatever, at least he kind of owns who he is.
Oh, that's for damn sure. Yeah.
Like you got to kind of respect somebody he's certainly not hiding his flaws.
Yeah. No, definitely true. And encouraging his wife to write a whole series about his flaws.
Yeah. Yeah. Like exactly. Like at least, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was even the same. Like when he got kicked off Community way back. I know this is ancient history. I thought that was the right call by NBC, and I know that's not always a popular opinion, but it's like no, he was being impossible to work with. And
Yeah.
it's like he's a good creator, but he was an asshole. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like in Hollywood, being a like nice person that's easy to work with goes a long way. Like you don't have to be the most talented writer, director, showrunner, whatever in the world if you are just very easy to work with. That goes a long way, and I think that does show that like even the most talented writer, director, whatever, if you are a pain in the fucking ass, no one's gonna want to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, well, he lasted almost as long as Chevy Chase did on the show, which really sort of.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they had him back, so not.
Yeah,
it's not
well,
that
I mean,
bad, but.
part of the thing was that he and Chevy Chase just fucking hated each other, and they did not get along at all. Oh, but that is indeed ancient history. I feel like they were going to make a movie about Community.
I saw a Reddit thing about that. I think it was on hold because it got screwed a bit by the strike, and then
oh yeah,
I think everybody has like all the original actors have signed on. The thing is, they're all just so big now that it's like the scheduling. So they've all signed contracts to say they'll be in it. I think the script is more or less done. It's just now they can't figure out how to get all of them available at the same time, and they don't want to do like a season 4 of Arrested Development situation.
Yeah. I mean, just Donald Glover alone, like how did?
Yeah. So it's like getting anything. Donald Glover, Alison Brie, and Joel McHale's schedules to all align is proving to be the real trick.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Yeah, and I would rather it not exist than do like a Arrested Development thing for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully sometime soon. But yeah, it sounds like all the ducks are aligned. We just need to put the bullet in the gun. Is that how that metaphor goes?
Sure. All right, folks. That is going to do it for us this week. As we said, next week, probably not an episode, but back in 2 weeks with Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. We'll see you then.
See ya.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.